I'm Ron W Henley, and this is our Thursday night banter blitz sponsored by ICC Internet Chess Club, and it's good to see everyone here. A little bit of news to cover, then we will go over a few in-game studies, compositions that I made during a period where I was producing, I don't know, about a 13-volume series. Rook ending videos for ICC, and I also wanted to cut and paste and get a couple of commands here so that people will know, that is our guest, will know how to get a game. That's always useful. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut and paste these here. That way when people ask, we are ready. Well, it's not letting me do it. Okay. Anyway, news. First off, famous Alice Cooper song, "School's Out!" For me, my last class was today, and then my school officially wraps it up tomorrow at 12 o'clock, half a day, and had a great bunch of kids this year. Great bunch of kids. A couple of really enthusiastic players. One kid went from about 1,300 online to about 1,800. It's a pretty good jump, even for this pandemic period. Aha! Coach Connor's here. Good evening, sir. We got some good stuff for you. Hopefully you'll be able to share with your students. And the manual. Yes, Alice Cooper, "School's Out Forever." So, but on the news front, besides school being out, a little bit of local news we have, and this is a good thing, is that chess tournaments are gradually making their way back. We know the Las Vegas Chess Festival, I think, at last count, has about 700 players signed up. It's about the second or third week in June. It's at the Westgate this year, so it's good to see things come back. And this is Andy B., Mike's old student. You're not that old, dude. Anyway, thanks so much. Glad you appreciated last week's presentation. This week, we're going to look at some studies that I created during the period where I was making some rook ending videos. But anyway, the bit of good news is Sunrise Civic Center in Oakland Park Boulevard in Sunrise, Florida. This city was like once or maybe even twice Chess City of the Year, according to the U.S. Chess Federation. They have a mayor, Mike Ryan, super supportive of chess. About 7 or 8 years ago when he first was getting started, my very good friend, the dearly departed Oscar Maldonado, we went out there a few times and did some promotional stuff, and then eventually a larger group came to help them get organized on a much larger level. But anyway, June 12th from 8:30 to 2 p.m. they will be having an event. You have to register online in advance, okay? And it's good to see chess slowly coming back to over the board play. Other cities that are also having some events, but this is really good news because I know I have a lot of students and a lot of kids that are kind of gung-ho to get back to playing regular tournaments. Now my school, probably about October, will have probably a little more expanded schedule. In the past we've done 4 tournaments. This year I think maybe we'll step it up to 6 just to start accommodating a little more demand. So that's one bit of good news. Now what's the other good news? Well, depend on which side of the fence you're on, but Magnus Carlsen comes through in the final and he beats Wesley So in the FTX Crypto Cup. This happened right at the very end of the month, and I believe Wesley So had knocked him out not once but twice in the last 9 months in different events. I mean, that's a lot of gratitude. Carlsen actually organized the whole tour and then he got knocked out once by Radjabov, once by Dubov, twice by Wesley, and so that's a little bit of news. Good to see Carlsen, get back on track. But of course, I'm a big fan of Wesley as well. very decent guy. And now the other bit of news, of course, is we all know, as I discussed a couple of weeks ago, we did a preview of the upcoming World Championship match between Nepomniachtchi. Do I get an A+ for pronunciation or what? And Magnus, okay? But before they actually start in with their World Championship match, it turns out they will meet once in the Norway chess event, okay? And that'll be in November, and so we'll get a little bit of a preview there. But I think this win in this Crypto Cup was a big boost to Magnus's confidence. He seems much more relaxed, much more, up to the challenge now. And so that was really good news. Okay, now what do we have on tap for today? Let's see. Yes, I mentioned take a look at some rook-ending studies. Well, here's other news. For example, one of the things I like with ICC is a number of different things. You can see Yermo articles, very serious analyst, Grandmaster Yermolinsky. Many people don't realize, of course, he came here in the 80s. He won 2 or 3 U.S. championships, frequent commentator. I had the pleasure of being a co-host once. One of us was the host, one of us was the analyst. I forget which. Very good understanding of chess. And so he does serious work. Of course, one of my favorites was his What Every Russian Schoolboy Should Know series. You can see GM Petrov, 20 endings you should know, how to mate with 2 bishops. Now, by the way, in terms of mating with 2 bishops, you can see he gives this video and everything. But one of the things that we really like here on ICC is you can go to Practice and Improve. Now, this is just a little side diversion, but you can see you've got these bots. Mate with king, bishop, and bishop versus king. And I love to use these for my kids because they need that interactive component.
Game started.
So, for example, now here it tells us we can do it in 16 moves. I'm not so concerned if we do it in 16 moves. I'm just concerned that we have a program, that we have a pattern, okay? So normally we wouldn't necessarily check, but step 1 is supposed to be organize the bishops. Now, when you're using the bishops, you have to think more in terms of a triangle and less in terms of a, okay, so I've done step 1. I've organized my bishops. I've also done step 2, which is bring my king up to coordinate with the bishops, okay? Now, what do I need? Okay, step 3 would be push his king to the edge of the board. Now, it doesn't really matter which edge, okay? You can see we've now achieved step 3. Step 4 is not to stalemate. For example, notice that king to d2 would be stalemate. Okay, better is king to d3. Now, we got him on the edge of the board. We pick a corner. Now, I'm going to pick the A1 corner. Let's just send the bishop over. Notice how we cut him off. Send the bishop down. See how the bishop works as a team. Okay, now we're going to go with the king. Then he will have 2 choices. He can go king to d1, in which case we just sledgehammer him into the corner. But the more tricky move would have been king to b1. Is that the bishop on g2 no longer is needed on that side. You pull him back to a2. The reason you don't go with the king in that situation is because the king is still needed a little bit longer on c3. So that's the hardest variation for humans. But see, now it's pretty easy peasy, as my kiddies would say.
Check.
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 King keeps him boxed in. And now, do not stalemate. Do not play bishop e4. You got to leave him a little bit of air. So any pass move with the bishop along this diagonal should be sufficient. So we're just going to go bishop e2. He pops his head out, and then bam,
check,
bam.
Checkmate.
Easy peasy. Okay, got a little sidetracked there, but I love these bots. Super useful for training the kids, okay? And now the question is, can I get back home? But anyway, you could also have them watch the video. Different kids learn different ways, okay? So, there we go. We actually made it back to home. Okay, so a number of different things. Of course, Anand Topalov was a fantastic match. You can see a couple of our previous shows are on here. Queen and pawn, queen versus pawn, and knight versus pawn. Yeah, queen versus pawn is very important. I was covering that with one of my students last week. And when the weaker side has a pawn on the 7th rank, you need to know which pawns are winning and which ones are drawing. In principle, you have to be especially careful with the rook pawns and bishop pawns because of unique stalemating opportunities. And then even at that, sometimes there are exceptions where you actually let them promote, but their king and queen are so boxed in the corner, you just squeeze in for the mating net. Okay, so very, very, very good, useful articles. And then one of the things that I really like here is we can go to my profile, go to games, and of course in the game library, which I'm told holds 400 games, we're not there yet. I have uploaded, well, we have our previous presentations, like last week I think we went through all these rook-in games from my youth, and now we're going to pick up, before I show my compositions, I came across this, and I thought this was pretty cool. If you like, take a snapshot of this one, try to solve it, and at the end of the rook ending presentations, I'll give you the solution. Crunks Lannister, hey, good evening, buddy. So anyway, this is checkmate in 2. Notice this was created by a guy named Faust. I think it was around 1940. And black has all 8 pawns. Now, one thing to keep in mind, Crunks Lannister gets the buzzer for queen h1. Close, but no cigar. But good try. I think queen h1 could be met by pawn to f3. But excellent try. Anyway, black for his part. Now, Bobby Fischer once said about mate in 2, it's simple. Duh. You make a move, he makes a move, and checkmate. Well, of course, for Bobby, that was pretty easy, right? For us mere mortals, sometimes I have to study these things for a while. And then there are the times we actually have to look in the back of the book for the solution. And failing that, we have to put it into some chess program that spits out, the solution in about nanoseconds. Okay, so take a picture. We'll come back to this, but keep in mind, black has 8 pawns, thus he has 9 pawn moves. I'm no genius in math, but you figure each pawn can move once, and the pawn here on f4 can either capture or advance. So, whatever solution you come up with, you have to be able to meet all 9 pawn moves. So we're going to come back to that one. If I forget, please remind me, okay? Take a snapshot if you want to try and solve it between now and then. Let's see. But that was just something that I thought was kind of cute, artistic, very attractive. Now we will look at my own little meager efforts at compositions. And again, I'm not going to tell you that these are great compositions. What these are designed to show is little tactical motifs that come up in rook endgames. And as I said, when I was filming the ICC rook ending video series, mostly around 2014-15, I came up, with a few of these. So here, super basic example. This is, I guess we could call it mate in 3. And this shows the danger of the king being in the corner. Okay? So this one's pretty easy. You can see black has this passed pawn on g2. He's threatening rook check. When you move your king, he's going to promote. So of course you need to hide your king. Now, if you could just hide your king on g4, you could drop back and make a draw pretty easily. You'll pick off the pawn. But even better is to take advantage of his king position and slide into g6. Okay, now, I know this one's pretty simple.
Check.
But I promise you, like 2nd and 3rd grade math,
checkmate.
It'll get a little more complicated, okay? Okay, now this one. Material's equal. White has, well, the black rook is looking like it's doing well. Okay, black's rook is very active. He's threatening to take the pawn on e5. Let's see if we can And you can see the black rook is very well placed. Okay, he's threatening to take this pawn, and he's threatening to take this pawn. Okay, so what's the solution? Yeah, on the surface it looks like black's doing a-okay. But the surprising move here, Coach Connor, what do you think white should do here, buddy? Krunks Lannister is correctamundo on this one. Rook to d4. You give black the very unpleasant choice. If he trades rooks, you recapture, and then the king and pawn endgame is lost because you just push him back, zigzag him. The double A pawns are pretty useless. And when he takes the pawn on a3 with check, you step up with your king, and voila, you have a mating net. When he moves somewhere,
checkmate.
Checkmate. So super important to be on the lookout for these little tactical nuances. Good spot, Krunks Lannister. Okay, what else we got? Okay, 2 pawns apiece. Looking like it should be a draw. The black rook and king are pretty close. However, the pawn on d7 is only 1 square away. Any ideas, guys, what to do here? I mean, in a blitz game, we'd probably play rook takes pawn. Then the guy would play king back to e7. And then he would try to steal our baby on the d file. But Krunks Lannister once again with the tactical eye. Bam! Rook c7 to c6. Okay. When he takes with the pawn, you push. When he promotes, you queen. Now, theoretically, the computer says that this is a winning position. However, just be aware that queen versus rook probably takes about 35 moves. And we do actually have the ICC training bot for that. What you want to do be careful about is don't let him set up a fortress. So you want to keep that black king away from those pawns, okay? Krunks Lannister says he's not going to tell anymore. Oh, no, don't worry. Feel free. These are instructional. Okay, so let's see. What do we got here? Similar concept. If you got the last one, you'll get this one super easy. Now here, the black rook on h6 looks to be doing a great job. Ready to go to d6. Ready to snip the pawn on b6. Looking good. Okay. I can see Krunks Lannister having to restrain his hand from typing rook to c6, rook to c6. Okay. And of course, bam, there you go. Now, what I like about this one is, of course, if he takes, you roll in. But the nice thing here is that you force his rook off this favorable location. Now, for example, well, if he'd gone rook h8, you just go rook check, trade, and the pawn would roll in. When he goes here, now you push. When he takes it, you push. If he takes this one,
check.
This time it's much easier. There is no queen versus rook 35 move job. You just simply mop up. Okay, but again, the same concept. Rook c6. That one little tactical shot can save you so much grief and aggravation in trying to win a game. Okay, that's the one we just saw. Let's see. I think this would be the next one. Now, this one is actually nice, and it's kind of a takeoff on a very famous Aaron Nimzovich game. Okay, and in fact, Nimzovich's game came from an earlier position where he actually had 2 rooks doubled on the 7th and a knight, versus, like, say, I don't know, black had a bishop somewhere, and at one moment he actually played the knight into c6, and then when the guy took it, he took on g7. Anyway, this is a little mini simple domination theme. Okay, and white to play. Now, of course, as often in these puzzles, you know, black has the killer passed pawn that's looking brutally unstoppable. I was trying to find where my arrows are. I feel lost not being able to make arrows. Lecture marks. Okay. Okay, so let's just admit we're lost. Can't find arrows. Maybe Sandro can mention to me how to make the arrows. I thought it was something like... Nope. That didn't help. But anyway, that's the passed pawn that's threatening to go in. So the question is what to do here, guys. What you do is you take advantage once again. So one of the key things that I discuss in the Rook Ending video series is that in the endgame, the king is a fighting piece. And bad things happen to kings that are on the back rank or in the corner. What are the bad things that can happen? Well, pawns queen with check, mating nets happen, okay? Square, boom, right click on the starting square, drag the mouse to the arriving square. Okay. Ah! You just have to ask. So yeah, that's the pawn that is threatening to roll on in. Okay. So, meanwhile, we're going to roll on in with our king. So the first move is power in with the king. Now, once we power in with the king, we're touching the black rook. Well, the black rook has, I guess, 3 options. A, move. B, get protection. C, ignore the attack. Okay? Now, if this rook comes over to protect, then you have your basic 2-rook checkmate. Bing, bing, and bang. Okay? So, same thing if the rook retreats. So the other choice he has is a tricky move, rook to a6. Now when he goes rook to a6, you go ahead and take the rook. Now, of course, when you take the rook, you threaten this checkmate. Boom. Because this rook is now protected.
Check.
Now we see the point of rook to a6, giving you a little check this way. But not to worry. You slide your king up. Now, you renew the threat to give the checkmate. He drops back to guard that checkmate. And then you rotate on him. You drop the rook back to g6. When he plays king up, you drop
check.
The king back. But see, now your king is in position to support the g7 rook check. So
check.
Go ahead and take the pawn with check.
Check.
Check. And
checkmate.
Checkmate. But a pretty good example of piece coordination and bad things happening to a king in the corner in the endgame. Okay. Now this one's pretty obvious, but you should always be on the lookout for mating net possibilities in endgames. They pop up at the most unlikely moment sometimes. Here, black seems to be doing very reasonably well. In fact, if black had one more move here, pawn to h4, he would be having no problems at all, because you can see he's generated counterplay on this side. He's got contact. White's not going to be able to ignore him and keep 2 connected passed pawns because this guy's just motoring up. So he's going to eliminate. He's going to trade. He's got 4 to 3 on this side. His king is super active, but he's missing that one move. So, what to do here? Well, white has a surprising resource. White can play king to f2. King to f2 threatens rook to f5 checkmate. When he plays pawn to e6, guarding this square, then you have the
checkmate.
Second checkmate with pawn to g3. As I tell my kids, pawns, they may be small, they may be little, but there's lots of them, and pawns have big dreams too. So, one of the biggest dreams a pawn could have, I think, is checkmate the enemy king, or maybe become a queen. So, but nice example of an unexpected mating net. So always be on the lookout for those little opportunities. Okay. So here's one's a little messy that I made in 2015. And this is white to play and win. And Crunks Lannister, go ahead and let your typing hand go. Feel free to offer a solution. You can see the white king is actually the one boxed in on the back rank, but the black king is over here on the edge of the board over here. And the white king is back here in the back rank. If black is able to open any of these files and slip a rook in the back jack, it's all over. Rook at A to B7. Boy, cannot play this guy tonight. He's too sharp, but he is correctamundo. Rook at A to B7 threatens simply rook to A3 checkmate. What can he do to try and escape? He plays rook takes D3, but he just takes it, and when he takes the rook,
checkmate.
He has pawn takes, and we can see that is checkmate. Good spot. Okay. Now this one's interesting. A little, but again pretty simple. And what do we play here, sir? Well, one of the oldest sayings in chess pertaining to rook endings is rooks belong where? Behind passed pawns. Therefore, we play rook to the D file. He goes up. We go up. He goes back. We take that. He frees his king. We go in. He attacks our rook. We attack him. He takes. We take. He attacks. No, he pushes. We get out of the way. Now, if you go to the C file, he might be promoting with check. He pushes. We push. He pushes. We promote
check.
With check. He goes king up. And notice because of the pawn configuration, it's not so easy for him to zigzag in with his queen. Normally, that would be pretty easy. So we got to stop that guy. He goes king over, renewing the threat to promote. We go after his pawn base. He promotes.
Check.
Take, take. Now you have a new king and pawn endgame, but after all that, our king is closer and gets the first munch. So we take that. He comes back. We take another. He goes there. We push. Now we're ahead in the race. Okay? So now this should be pretty easy. And the easiest is simply to stop him cold. Always, when you have queen versus pawn, always look for moves that stop them from promoting. Okay? Let's see. I think we got maybe one left. Ah, this one. So, white is a pawn ahead. Two beautiful connected pass pawns in the center of the board. But black is trying to do that ugly counterplay thing. Oh, you hate that. You're just trying to win the game, and then they're trying to mess you up. Happens to me all the time. So, what do you guys think here? Any ideas? Now, first thing is if you take this pawn, he'll take with the rook, and then he'll be all in your business on the e4 pawn and the a4 pawn, and probably won't be so easy. So what you do, you pin the pawn. Now he takes. Now what do? You take his rook. And then, you got to remember, our rook can't get back. See, the pawn covers the square, and the pawn is ready to promote. But you have time. So you play rook back to c6. When they promote,
checkmate.
Got the little meeting net once again. Crunks Lannister saying rook c6. Rook c6 might win as well. Actually, that's a good point. If we go back to this position here, I think he's saying that instead of rook takes, I think he's saying that we could also just play rook c6. But that might be more problematical because he could trade and then push, and then when we push, he queens. So I think it's probably better to go ahead with the intended solution, let him promote, give him that cheap thrill, right? And then check him
Checkmate.
from behind. Okay, so I think I have one more for you, and then we will move on to other things. Let's see. That's the one we just looked at. And this one. So this one, about 3 or 4 years ago, Hikaru Nakamura was down here in Sunrise, and I think I showed it to him, but there's a flaw in it, so I need to move it ahead one position, one move. Okay. And I think it took Nakamura about 5 seconds to whip out the solution for me. Okay, so it's white to play and win. Any ideas, guys? And that means Crunks Lannister can also participate, free his hand, type away. Coach Connor is saying rook to a4. I'm sorry, it's white to play and win, Coach. We're on the white side going up the board. There's a rook already on a4. Crunks Lannister says this one is hard. Well, I know it's 1 o'clock in the morning there, so I'm glad we're actually causing you to take a moment to think just a little. No brain strain, but, you know, just think a little bit. I don't know if you can hear the ding, ding, ding. Where I live in Los Olas is right on 3rd Avenue Bridge. And every now and then you get a little ding, 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 ding. midnight. Okay. And so yeah, every so often the bridge is going up. You get the little ding, ding, ding. This one's a little bit tricky, guys. And I have to admit, I might be guilty of not giving you full disclosure. Okay. When Crunks Lannister says he gives up, that's when we're going to move on. Or, as usual, he just raps out the solution. But I'm telling you, I showed this to Nakamura. It probably took him 10 seconds. I don't know, maybe 15 seconds, you know. Rook to d1. Okay, McKnight. Hey, McKnight. Well, I'm going to have to be correct. I mean, we're going to have to go with Crunks Lannister's rook to d1 and give him half credit. Okay? Half credit. That's what you're going to get for this one. You ready? Okay. You're right. The rook does go to d1. And I did tell you I didn't give you full disclosure. I didn't mention whether or not white could castle. But again, he is correct. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. He threatened to promote the pawn. He has to pop back there and stop the pawn, right? Yeah, that was sneaky, okay? But now the next move is actually really key, okay? Okay, Coach Connor meant to say rook d1 too. Coach Connor gets half credit as well. Okay, but the next move is really key. You play rook to d5. Crunks Lannister is all over that. Because see this rook over here, you just took away his flight square. Now, when he plays rook takes pawn, the point why you need your king on c1 is that you now slide the king up. Now you're attacking the rook. So again, keep in mind domination. See how our pieces work together? And we take away all the squares from the poor rook. The rook only has rook to a4. When the rook goes to a4, bam, you hit him with this one. Now you freeze up. And this is the sad dilemma. 1, 2, 3, 4. Black's actually a pawn ahead, but to me this is like the epitome of zugzwang. If he didn't have to make a move, his rook would be safe. We can't approach it. We can't improve. But he can't move his king. Will promote the pawn. And his only move that doesn't lose the rook is to push this little pawn right here. But when he pushes this little pawn right here to a5, now all we have to do is pass, and we run him out of moves. And then we just come back, and he no longer has any moves that don't just simply lose the rook, and that is that. So I was actually a little bit happy that I came up with this idea. And of course, the themes are probably seen in other rook games, but the idea of castling queenside and running them out of moves, it has a certain amount of domination appeal. Okay? So, now, back to the problem that we discussed earlier. That's it for the rook games, but I do want to go back to the Faust composition that we showed. As we mentioned, this is checkmate in 2. When you look at a study, and also as mentioned, Bobby Fischer said, it's pretty easy. You make a move, they make a move, you checkmate. Okay. But the other thing to keep in mind on good compositions, every piece and pawn has a function. And sometimes the clue to solving a puzzle is figuring out, why is this bishop on a8, or why is this bishop on a7? What's the point? And sometimes it may only come up in one variation. Okay? g4, Crunks Lannister says g4 is the move, I think. But Crunks Lannister on g4, what are you doing on, let's say, e2? Pawn to e2. So I'm not sure that g4 and pawn to e2 is going to get checkmate next move. Not quite feeling it. But now let's see, how do we get rid of lecture marks? Undo marks. Okay. Undo last mark. Okay. Now, if you guys are ready, someone says, Crunks Lannister says f3, queen h2. Mate. Okay. Well, you're halfway there again. We're going to have to give you half credit there again, sir. The killer move is, nope, g takes f4. What would be wrong with g takes f4? I have a feeling king takes f4. A little bit gutsy, but what the heck? You only got to hang on for one move. Queen h2 check. You got king g4. Nope. Here's your move. You play queen to h2. And after I show that move, Crunks Lannister is going to be like, darn, I should have had that. Yeah. Okay. But queen h2. Oh, the manual had it. Nailed it. Queen h2. Exactly. So now, again, remember we said he has 9 pawn moves. Well, I think the queen move on h2 takes care of 5 pawn moves. Pawn takes pawn. Queen takes pawn mate. Pawn to f3, we have g4 mate. Pawn to e2, we have queen takes e2 mate. On pawn to d3, we have queen across town to b2 mate. And on pawn to f6, we have queen to h8 mate. And on pawn to pawn to g4, the queen on h2 helps with pawn takes f4 mate. So this amazing queen move actually knocks out something like 5 or 6 of black's potential pawn moves. Well, what does that leave? Well, remember we said that every piece has a function. If pawn to c5, then you have bishop takes on d4 mate. Okay. If pawn to d5, logical try. You're giving yourself the e4 square, but then the rook comes across laterally, and you can go rook to e6 mate. If pawn to e6, then you have knight to f7 mate. So I thought it was a pretty cute problem. Mad props to Faust. Bit of creativity there. Okay, I'm going to play Foxy openings first, and then after that I'll try to play Ohanesian.
Game started.
Not sure what to do with Foxy openings, because this guy actually owns the video library, knows everything. Wow, full throttle. He's coming after me. Well, we made him pause. He's got his little system. Not so little. Pretty good system. Will he take with the pawn or the queen? Very good, Ron. He will do one or the other. Okay. Free my people. I may have gotten away with something here, or maybe not. Now, one question comes to mind. What is his plan for king safety, or does he have one? He's clearly not castling queenside. Castling kingside could be a bit drafty. He went for it. Okay, consider me impressed. Okay, what to do? What to do? No, that's interesting. Okay, good for the goose, good for the gander, something like that. I'm certainly not castling queenside with that bishop going this way. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! Of course, the great Ashmednov would play pedal to the metal, pawn to f5 here. Stop that guy. Blockade that guy. I think black can be reasonably happy he didn't get mangled a la Jobava style at this point. Great opening to Jobava. In fact, Paul is the guy who turned me on to it. Oh, no, 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 dude. You had to play bishop f2 there, I think. I mean, I get that if I go knight check and then you're coming with f5, but no, 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 baby. I'm gonna penetrate. I'm gonna hopefully dominate the light squares. Anyway, that's my fantasy. Okay, then I'm gonna bring more heat. I'm not rushing to win the exchange. No, no, no. Even though later the computer will tell me that's what I should have done. No, feel the light square love here. Oh, no, no, no. This is
incoming challenge.
Okay, all Hanesian.
Game
Don't know what I
started.
can do with you. A little under the weather. I had a physical fitness training accident earlier in the week, and not feeling so great, but life goes on. Yeah, I didn't do this quite
Check.
right, I have to say, but maybe it's more or less okay.
Check.
Nothing special, but if you want something special, go to Kmart. Coach Connor about to eat dinner? Okay, no worries, buddy. Anyway, this feels better than what I usually get from the white side of the Lemongrad Dutch. So I guess from that point of view, I can't complain. Or I could complain, but who would care? Whew. What to do, what to do? I want so bad to play knight a4, but he has a very nice resource with knight to d4. That's truly unfortunate. But there I made the typical mistake that Kotov describes. I was looking at knight takes, pawn takes, rook to the 7th. Probably liquidates out to a draw. A lot of pawns get vacuumed off the board, as they say. And then I decided to go back to this idea, because I thought I saw something slightly different. And maybe knight d4, not so easy. Wow, that's a bit of a concession. But now I can pop in. Okay, but now he's threatening to go there. Oh, and he's threatening this guy. Okay, got it. But let's see. Ooh, there's a move. Sack that, threaten that. He goes there. If I play a4, he's got this knight d4 in. Let's just chill. He's the guy with the funny knight. Wow. Jailbreak. Jailbreak. Okay, let's just give that guy the boot before we do anything else. And then let's see. Aha, but I see he's going there, so that'll at least shore up that. Okay, got it. Let's see if we can keep the pawn chain intact. I'm not sure about f3. A little short on time here. The usual tricky business. This guy's always making trouble. That's what he does. So you see, Mr. Bond, there's no escape. We hope. Okay, let's see. Maybe there is some escape. Who knows? Okay. Well, there's the move I want to play and the move I want to play. Oh, darn it. I know my position's good, but I don't know how to improve it. I'm very short on time.
Check.
Ah.
Time warning.
Yeah, thanks.
Check.
Yeah, I got no chance here.
Check.
Okay. Good one. Gotta resign. Okay, where's the resign button? Good game, sir.
White coming
good
resigned.
but couldn't figure out how to improve. Anyway, good game. I liked my opening, but couldn't play
Game
fast enough.
started.
Okay, hopefully we'll see you next week. Yeah, at one moment I was thinking to play bishop h6 there. And then I changed my mind. Oh, and now this guy. he's just going to do the usual.
Server announcement.
That's an interesting decision. Not necessarily a bad one, but I see. Okay, so he's going to win a pawn. Or maybe not. Ah, stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Why didn't I go to D1? Yeah, bishop D1. Then the bishop could take that beautiful diagonal on B3. Anyway, after a pretty mediocre, nondescript, unimpressive opening, I think white has survived the worst. Where's this guy going? Let's just save that. Pause. Hit the pause button. Okay, let's guard this. Now,
server
like
announcement.
Picking up here. Let's just take this. Feel like the bishop's breathing, and I think Najmed let me off the hook here. Maybe just a little bit. The bishop is functioning. Take this guy check, and I think we're all good here. So of course, totally not a very impressive opening display on my part. Okay, please tell me he's not dominating my bishop. Actually, something to be said for sinking that bad boy in on g6, but let's just chill. Go here for the moment. Oh, please, leave my bishop alone, dude. Leave me alone. Yeah, he's coming in here. Okay, let's just do this. Anyway, small consolation. We did have rook and bishop versus rook and whatever. Should be some way to make this simple. Okay, we're good on time. Oh, well, now that guy is annoying. He's attacking that guy. Do I have to give up my bishop? No. Let's see if we can do technically. Let's see if we can do this first. Tap his rook. Make the rook move, presumably. Although, well, there I can just trade. In fact, this is... Okay, don't... Well, even if I play there, check, and he goes there and we trade out everything, that's fine too. So now, well, here I'm going to cheat him. I'm going to take with the king, protect that, and now it's really all good. Okay, so I got away with a few things there. And now it's pretty much technical overdrive. Shouldn't be a problem.
Black resigns.
Okay, another good opening for you, sir. Crunks Lannister says good night. Okay, good game, sir. I'll see you next week, hopefully. And, yeah, this game, somewhere he should have been building the attack instead of releasing the tension and kind of letting me survive a bit. And then
Incoming
my
challenge.
bishop got free.
Game
Okay.
started.
But now black. Black is another story. Black is another story. Play the Caro Khan. Supposed to be a good opening. Now, of course, he plays one of the sharpest, most aggressive variations.
Check.
He did something like this before. It's actually pretty interesting. So what am I supposed to do? I mean, I know in theory I want to trade the light squared bishops. Let's just castle. I once lost a game like this to Kovacevic, though, where I was black, and he had that pawn on c5, and I never got the promised counterplay. Magnus would know what to do, but Magnus always knows what to do. So knight takes. Why knight takes? Well, in the middle game you want to play knight e4 and f5 and go
Server
that way.
announcement.
Here, though, I want to build a wall. And that is not a political statement. That is just, I'm building the wall, and on the light squares with my pawns, and then I want to counterattack with b6. And this should give me good play. That's why I wanted to save the other knight for the c6 square. Now I feel like I got reasonable counterplay. Now here, of course, the natural move is to take with the knight. Okay, let's go with it. Okay, so now I got to try and do a minority attack. And I have given him an isolated pawn on d4. And I do get play on the file here. But is it all enough? I mean, it all sounds great. What do we do on the queen side? If we push a4, then he be a5, he can get the b5 square. Could reroute the bish. Could also play knight to b4, and he'll guard, and we can start doubling. Well, there's an idea. I mean, after all, it's June. It's about time Ron came up with an idea. Yes, that was to be expected, but then I had the idea that I could play this. Maybe this. But this idea is not so great. I mean, it's okay. Play there, he might go there, then when I go take. Aha. It's never as easy as they tell you. Somehow this is still not so easy. Yep. Nudge, give me the nudge. Ah, but see, now the c4 square has been weakened. But will it be that important? And see, now I'm glad I kept the knight on b6. Now let's just touch that a pawn a little. Yeah, I feel like we are in business. Okay. Now we can come up here. And so yes, this is the challenge. The a4, b4 pawns. Are they a strength or are they exposed? That's the question. Meanwhile, you gotta like black's light square prospects here. Well, you don't have to, but they look pretty good. Okay, where to go now? He's still pushing away. I hate to cut off my attack. I mean, part of me was, I don't know, should I be going back to a7? So to some degree we're playing with fire here because we're provoking him forward. But is he advancing or is he overextending? Now here, feels like I got 2 hits, and kabam! I think we scored one. We're in. That feels good. Now we've got various possibilities like knight to b2, or knight at d takes e3. It kind of feels like it's crumbling apart. I think this is where I can be thankful I had a teacher like Karpov to show me such things. Now a5 is a move, but let's be happy. Just chill. Come back here. And he's still got a solid pawn deficit. The pawn on a4 is feeling a little bit tender. Are there some combinations here? Knight takes e3 takes, pawn takes, all seems to be guarded. But this move looks promising. Now that pawn on a4 gets
check.
A little ripe. Okay, he trades. Got that. Now here, rook in is a greedy move. Knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Well, I kind of want that pawn. At some point I may need to chop off that bishop. Yeah. Okay, he wants to get behind my pawn. I don't want him to have that. He's got the threat to play g4. Double knight ending a little messy. Short on time. Not liking the knight on e6. What's the easy solution? Should not be panicking here. We are 2 pawns ahead. Okay, so this is a forcing variation. Okay, but now I get to save the bishop. Let's just chill. And I want to start motoring this guy up the board. Maybe bishop d6 was a better save. I want to get this guy up the board. That might have been a good chance to play knight b2 to rescue my knight and reroute him up to c4. But in principle, exactly my point. Okay, time for counterattack. Okay, but now
check.
I'm hoping the check and protect clause will kick in here. And we should be okay here, as long as he doesn't have any more tricky tricks. But now I feel knight c3 connecting the dots here. And this is probably one of my better Karpov imitations. Okay, 58 seconds, extra piece, extra pawn. Take that. Normally you don't trade pawns, but I wanted a little air from a king. I didn't want to get boxed in. Okay, bring the knight back. Let him do his thing. Where are we? Here? Why not go here? Offer the trade. Not afraid to trade. Let's keep him boxed out. Flatter king to f7, bishop to h6. Go after his pawn base. Then we can even increase the pressure there. Yeah, this feels comfortable.
Check.
That helped us get where we want to go.
Check.
Okay. Now he's in the box. Now we just take that. It should all be good here. Now we all know the drill. E5, two connected passed pawns. Should do the job. Tip that guy first. Okay, so I lied. A little domination first. Let's just tighten everything up first. But eventually
White
will happen.
resigns.
Okay, good game, sir. I think we got time for one more. Oh, Coach Connor had to leave. Too bad. Said he was about to eat dinner, which sounds like a great idea. And,
Incoming challenge.
Okay, one more game with Nishmedinov. And since I'm feeling a little under the weather, I think we will call it a night. One more game. Okay. Nights, I can't play today, toothache, and under meds. Brother, I feel you. I was training for another sport and had a shoulder went dead on Monday. I didn't even know I was going to be able to do everything, but thank goodness I had very good
Game
massage therapist.
started.
And we got to do something better than that last disaster. That last disaster was, I want to throw up at the way I played that last opening. But McKnights, I'm glad to see you and appreciate you coming here to watch. Okay. And McKnights has a show, very good show. Plays everyone, just, you know, a guy looking to get better. Plays on all forums, but a lot on ICC. And we like to support. There's Mednov. Been watching Kronk's Lannister. Now, is this a trap? If I steal this pawn right in the middle of the board, are bad things going to happen to me? Probably. This has the real feel of a Neshmednov game. I think that was personal foul. He was threatening queen takes f2 mate, and I don't think he was going to tell me. And now he's doing more bad things to me. This is not looking good. Not looking good. I'm a little bit exposed here, like a lot. Yeah, I got a problem there, don't I? Multiple problems. Jesus. Yep, this does not look good at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 4, 6. There was a moment when it looked okay. He's threatening that guy. Got that. This is just downright horrible. Truth be told. This is just downright bad. Ah, and now more heat this way. Okay, what's he doing to me besides killing me? Well, pretty clear that guy's got to go. And I think maybe, just maybe, I'll survive the worst here. One can hope. Clearly got to unpin there, no question. Mad props. He does have a nasty looking bishop. So what's he got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Two, 4, 6. Okay. Offer to trade one of these. Now we're actually reasonably okay. I think he may have let me escape one more time. But, of course, he's still quite okay. Oh, sir. Oh. I think he meant to play rook takes rook. Sorry about that.
Black incoming challenge.
Oh, Coach Connor. Okay, one game with Coach Connor, then we'll call it a day. Back from dinner. First, though, Coach Connor, you got to tell us what you had for dinner.
Game started.
Dinner sounds like a great idea, dude. Sorry, finger slip. Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, you played a really good game. I don't think you had to sacrifice the exchange. Why didn't you play Rook takes A2, though? Ah, good opening here. Petrov defense. Yeah. Very good, Ron. You can remember the name of an opening. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, after Rook takes Rook, but you know, probably not even Rook takes Rook. Just play Bishop C5 there, Nezhmednov. Just play Bishop C5, keep a pair of rooks on the board, and you have, you have very reasonable compensation. You have a strong bishop, you're going to plant that on C5. That's going to be very hard for white to break in. But I think he could have done even better earlier. I think he kind of let me off the hook there a bit. Now, this feels like white's a little bit ahead in development, but, you know, shouldn't be terminal or anything. Oh, but that loses a very, very important tempo. This is not good. This loses a very, very important tempo. Because with this tempo, he pretty much needs to play Bishop E7. Otherwise, I'll just play a bishop move check. And like that, here, I can just play a bishop move. I'm making lose
Check.
His right to castle. So already that's a clear advantage. But if he'd have played Bishop E7, I would have had time to play D5. I saw some game Magnus had, where once white got D5, Magnus was white maybe, and he got D5 in, or Caruana, one of these guys. And then once they got D5 in, they had a bit more space, and it was pretty unpleasant for black. So yeah, here, losing castling privilege, it's not the end of the world, but it's going to create coordination problems later for the H8 rook. The king on F8 is not so ideally placed. Someone just lost audio. Okay,
Check.
This is kind of falling apart for the coach.
Check. Check. Check.
Now, will I get the finish? I was hoping for Bishop D6, Rook C7, and Knight E8 mate. No such luck. But there's still some possibilities here with Rook takes C6 and Bishop A6 check. Here's one. Knight E5, Knight takes E5, Bishop takes D1, Rook check, King over, and Knight D7 mate. Okay. See what happens. See what happens. There's also Rook C7, Rook C6, like this. Let's try this one. See if he sees what we're up to. Will the coach see it? Might not matter. Ah! Oh, rats. I wanted to go knight check and then queen b3 mate, and then suddenly I realized that I just need to do it this way first.
Check.
Okay, and that should be
Checkmate.
Okay, coach. You gave away too many pieces that game. Dude, you want one more game or you want to call it night? Anyway. Yeah, you fell apart early on that one, dude. T-Bag Mag, I'd like to see a thorough review of how to use the examine mode and the Stockfish engine page.
Incoming challenge.
I'm not sure who could help us with that.
Game
Okay.
started.
Yeah, I promise. Last game. I mean, Coach Connor didn't really get a good game there. I guess knight takes e4 was reasonable. The old pawn fork trick. Okay, so here I've won a center pawn. Yeah, McKnights might be able to help you. Okay, now here I get to do the pawn fork, so I get double bonus on knight takes e4. And this feels like this should win a pizza. Okay, let's get out of here and then think about what to do with the light squared bishop. I was thinking to go here and put it on b7 and point it that way towards his king. Yeah, definitely go check out twitch.tv McKnights, and he'll be able to help you with that technical question there, I think. That's a win-win. Okay, now watch out. He's trying to go all kamikaze here on me on this f7 pawn. Did all that work to get my bishop in position. You know what? Just shove another pawn. Try to block that diagonal a little. Maybe one day it'll be my turn. Okay. Oh my goodness, McKnights. Okay. Keep going. Gotta get rid of that knight of his on e5. That piece is having too much fun. McKnights, how long you gonna be? Okay, who's not in the game? That's the question I always ask the kiddies. That guy clearly was not in the game. Needs to pick it up, have a roll. Now we are attacking the d2 pawn, but my real goal here is I want to move the knight, my knight, to d5 and challenge his knight. If I can get rid of his knight, then that'll take a lot of the fun out of it for him. So the question is, when I move my knight, should I go back to d7 or should I go forward to d5? That's the question. Part of me wants to go to d5 and then maybe into f4, but I don't really feel like 2 pieces is enough to justify trying an attack. Now here he's just letting me pour in on d2, which, yeah, why not? If I trade queens, that's not a bad thing, right? Nothing bad's going to happen to me, is it? Big Mig. Yeah, maybe one more game. I don't know. McKnights wants me to hang in here a little bit. I'm pretty tired. A bit under the weather, as I mentioned, from the sports injury. But so far, nothing too bad. Now, still got possibilities of knight e4, getting rid of that knight on e5. Oh, okay, so McKnights is live. He's going live in a minute, and so yeah, this is going to be my last game because I'm a little bit under myself, as is he. Tooth pain also is no fun. In fact, I think we're going to do about 2 more streams this summer, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. And one of the things I have to do is I actually have to get some dental work taken care of myself. So I think we all have pandemic overdue issues. Okay, here I think we're going to be able to do a little chop.
Check.
And we finally got rid of this guy. Now it feels like it's falling apart a little. Okay, take this guy. I'm going to rotate around. And then we're going to get back to c5.
Incoming forfeit challenge time.
Jude, this is someone new, but I am a little tired, so I am going to go ahead and call it a night. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming in. I was like you as a kid. You didn't stop playing chess, you just moved to a new location. Okay, McKnights, are you all good? Because I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Use the command /raid McKnights. Okay, we are going to /raid McKnights. And I think we'll be able to send all our viewers over to Mr. McKnights. Use the command /raid McKnights. In Twitch. Yeah, I'm doing it in the chat here. Is that okay? Did that do it? It's saying unrecognized command. Okay, I think we got it. Anyway, thank everyone for playing. We will see you next week. And as I mentioned, we'll probably have one more show after that. 8 viewers are ready to raid McKnights. Raid! Raid is on. Thanks to ICC for sponsoring. Thank everyone for showing up. And we're sending you on to Mr. McKnights.